Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another week. This is the Live Life Aggressively show. This is Sincere Hogan. Got Mike Mall on the other side. And I know some of you have been wondering, where have they been? Well, I can tell you who hasn't been wondering where we've been. Our subscribers from Patreon. They know where we've been because they've had their episode, and they are pretty much happy as a fat kid with cake right now with that episode. So they a lot of good feedback, man, with the subscriber model that's going on. So,
yeah, I'm glad to hear that. People should definitely check out the last episode we did on joint health supplements, and you got into some motivational stuff. So they definitely need to subscribe now to get over to that. Go over to Patreon/LLA podcast, right? Isn't that the link?
Yeah, Patreon.com/LLA podcast, exactly. And on that little box, that dollar that's Patreon's doing has nothing to do with us. Go ahead and change that to 5, or you can go ahead and put some zeros behind that 1. Okay, so, I know it gets confusing for first-time Patreon, members, and they see that, and they think, oh, okay. So, yeah, come on, folks. So that's how you do that. Just go to that box, hit $5, put $10, put $100, $1,000. Hey, we'll take that, too. That makes you the executive producer when you get to that status. But, so Patreon.com/LLA podcast. Become a subscriber, and at least twice a month, you'll get privy to subscriber-only episodes, premium episodes, where we pretty much cover a variety of topics. So there you go. You can go do that right now while you listen to this.
Yeah, and then make sure to use that coupon code LLA. Go get 10% off all of our products on our respective websites. Yeah, we have a great guest. He's been on the show before. He has the same background as Jack Bauer, yet he looks like John Locke from the show Lost. That's Mike Gillette. How you doing?
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
That might be the best intro for you ever, huh? I think you should be introduced that way at every event you speak at.
What I appreciate is that it's briefer than most of the ones I get. So, we can just jump right into it.
It gets to the point, too. It kind of hits all the categories that you want.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let's talk about training this time, because last time you were on, we went off on a couple of tangents. We didn't really get into your training system, and you have a lot of good information. What's the focus right now? What are you working on?
Well, the focus for me is based on sort of a template that I like to follow. And the template sort of evolves around some of the different types of sort of, functional objectives I have for myself. So, like probably a lot of the people who listen, it matters to me to be strong. I want to be as strong as I possibly can. And one of the things I do as sort of a, personal calibration is do feats of strength, or, mind, body strength, however you'd care to describe those. And when you're bending steel, that type of thing, it's very helpful to be really, really strong. So I cultivate that as a primary focus, but as a more mature trainer, I'm presently 54 years old. I do have to acknowledge the passage of time, and I do have to accommodate changes or adjustments that naturally occur as I continue to train hard, but I continue to age every day as well. So I didn't really think about how it was that I was training until a few years ago. And a few years ago, I launched an info product. It had a really corny name that someone besides me came up with, but it's called the Savage Strength Training Program. And when it hit the market and my visibility increased a little bit, I started fielding questions. One of the most recurring questions, and probably because the whole program was promoted with a montage video of me just doing a bunch of feats of strength, crazy stuff, bending this and breaking that and whatnot. It's on YouTube. You can find it. So the recurring question was, is this how you train? And the course itself, not to, give away any trade secrets, but it's primarily a 5x5 structure, which I certainly didn't come up with. Probably the name most associated with that would be Bill Starr. Now, some of the variations of the program are some tweaks that I came up with, and many of the more unusual exercises are examples of things that are, sort of, unique to me or people who train like me. But the structure was just basically a fairly conventional, raw strength building process. And as I thought about that question, well, how is it that I do train? I actually started arriving at a template. That template is something I call a 4-dimensional strength protocol. And I have to start off with a disclaimer. I know there aren't 4 dimensions. Okay. It's just an egg. So within that structure, I mean, if we look at what the body does, it kind of, it pulls on things and it pushes on things and it folds in half and the legs push. And if we want to get a little bit more artful in describing that, we can talk about categories of movement like horizontal pushing, horizontal pulling, vertical pulling, squatting, trunk flexion, trunk extension. We can get more granular than that, but I mean that's a good start. So those categories of movements are fairly universal, and those are part of what I tend to train. And I just refer to that dimension of strength as linear strength. And linear simply refers to the movements. If we go to any commercial gym, guys, we're going to find machines that basically allow resistance to manifest along a linear path. But linear strength is just, one piece of the puzzle. So then dimension 2 is something that I refer to as helical strength, Helical. And that's simply strength which is expressed through helix-based movements or movements which proceed along an arcing as opposed to a linear path. Now, Mike, I know you're a kettlebell guy, and the staple exercise in that world is what? It's the swing. So there's probably your penultimate, helical movement. So anything that moves along an arc, which could be, a kettlebell swing. If you look at a lot of the rotational drills that are performed with sandbags or med balls, or even some of the limb exercises that you might perform with, say, Indian clubs, are all examples of manifesting helical strength. Does that make sense so far?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So then what I refer to as dimension 3 is dynamic strength. Now, that's not necessarily a movement category so much as it is a velocity or a velocity-based category. So any exercise where speed generation is integral to the execution of that exercise, that's a velocity-based movement. So if there's jumping or throwing or swinging a load at speed, there's dynamic strength. And of course, our power development exercises generally are going to fit within dynamic strength or dimension 3. And, a lot of people train pieces of these, but the last one, dimension 4, is the one that doesn't show up quite so much. And that's what I refer to as positional strength. And positional strength is what's postural in nature rather than movement oriented. So you can see it in either suspended or gravity-based positions. So maybe the most visual example of that would be if you're watching men's gymnastics and you watch a guy on the rings performing an iron cross. He's holding himself between the rings. His arms are parallel with the floor. His body's perpendicular to the arms. Nothing is actually moving, but the amount of muscular tension being generated is through the roof. So it's important for me, particularly with respect to positional strength, because when you do steel bending, you find yourself in a lot of unusual positions that really aren't mimicked anywhere within the weightlifting repertoire. So through incorporating those 4 aspects of those 4 categories, or what I call 4 dimensions, it's working within those and paying attention to all of them and how I can make them fit together, in some sort of a logical way, week to week, month to month. That is how I've been training for probably the last 8 or 9 years.
Can you give us an example of some of those velocity moves?
Well, yeah, anything, in my case, I don't do a lot of, Olympic lifts. primarily because I've got some joint issues that make holding the bar in those positions kind of problematic. So I like to use kettlebells or sandbags, and I'll do a lot of just, throwing, as hard, as fast, overhead throws, underhand, hikes, rotational work, just with increasing loads as I can. I don't do conventional kettlebell swings all that much. I do have an apparatus that I can load with plates, and I do a shortened arc swing, but with, heavier, like, 200 plus, just to get the same kind of muscle recruitment. But
what's the reasoning for that? Do you find that kettlebell swing is problematic for you? What's the reasoning for that?
It's ever since I broke my back, which was a long time ago, there are certain positions I find that a lot of conventional, some great exercises will put me in that are just uncomfortable. And I find that high repetition kettlebell swings are not good for me. I'll start getting some back pain from that, and then I have to lay off of it. So I've just kind of learned to work around. Probably one of my best gifts within this training realm is that I've developed a lot of workarounds, or alternative ways to get the same basic, functions accomplished, but without, if you have a limited toolbox and some of those tools aren't working for you, those tend to be the people who just stop training, particularly when they get to be, mid-50s. So I try to pay attention to that and, kind of let my ego move to the side so that if I'm not doing certain things that I used to do with ease, I don't get freaked out about that, so long as I've got, some alternative means of achieving the same, sort of physical outcomes, even if I'm not doing the gee whiz cool guy exercises like I used to, or that everyone else does.
Right. Well, that's an important point, because as you do train for a long period of time, there are going to be certain moves that are just not a fit anymore. Some people have a hard time with barbell deadlifts, and that they have to transition to a trap bar deadlift would be one simple example. Some people have a hard time with the bench press, and now they do dumbbell vert presses or incline dumbbell presses, or you switch over to overhead presses. What in your toolbox works really well for improving overhead pressing strength? Is there a velocity exercise that carries over?
For me, velocity-wise and overhead work, my tool of choice is a sandbag, because it allows me to use a neutral grip, which is just easier on my shoulders and elbows, and I can do whatever it is that I want to do with that particular piece of equipment, somewhat indiscriminately as far as the device goes. If I want to throw it, I throw it. If I want to, go so hard that, I may end up dropping it from fatigue, I'll do that and not worry about it. So, one of the things that allows me to train the way that I want to train is just having access to a lot of different implements. So that is my luxury, is having experimented with a lot of different pieces of gear. I may have the Guinness World Record for most specialty bars in a garage owned by one person. And it's not because, I'm a training snob or I'm so special. It's just because, I'm beat up. And some days I need to just kind of move the paint around the structure.
Yeah, it makes a point. It's funny how just slight variations can make all the difference. You could have serious pain using a barbell for overhead pressing, yet a kettlebell press allows you to find a certain groove to stay in those patterns where it's not painful. Yeah, and I love kettlebell presses more than dumbbell presses, for example. So I mean that's a pretty subtle distinction, but I can definitely feel it. Just the way the weight is off center and the way you can find a certain groove makes all the difference. Yeah, and I like getting pulled in the wrong direction and having to fight back in, which basically just reinforces me knowing where I want to have the weight at. Right.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to no matter like what equipment that you have, as long as you stick to the principles of the way your body moves, that's what matters most. And I think a lot of times people get too caught up in, oh, I got to have this to do that and do this to do that, as far as all these implements, all these tools, but not focusing so much on, oh, I got to have the right body mechanics to make this happen correctly. So it's focusing too much on the thing instead of, what the thing is going to do for the actual particular muscle or, body part. So I think
that's a great
we
point.
get caught up in too much of nothing.
Yeah, the tool's the tool, but it's, how we use the tool, how we sort of understand ourselves and engage with the tool or interact with the tool that makes all the difference. I've recently moved, and along with that move came a circumstance requiring me to frequently use a commercial gym to train in. And I haven't trained regularly in a commercial gym in years. I had the luxury of training in a very well-appointed garage gym. And the biggest distraction I have in a commercial gym, and you're probably the same way, is wanting to fix all of the, muscular malfeasance that's occurring in my presence. There's just so much physical illiteracy on display. And
I've learned the hard way not to do that, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You learn the hard way not to do that, because if people don't know who you are, they're not very open to advice.
Oh,
so
no.
It's just
exactly.
You can't actually do it, but the benevolent part of you, would like
to. Absolutely.
So I mean, in your mind, whether you're still doing what you're doing, but in your mind, you're over there fixing like 20 different things.
Exactly. You look at the guy.
It's just a really weird mental, process to sort of go through. It's like I've learned to kind of look down, keep my earbuds in, and drive on. But
what I like about working out at a commercial gym is that you see what is going on out there. It's like, these are the problems people have. It keeps you up to date. Sometimes when you're too isolated, you're always in your home gym. You're disconnected. So that's one of the benefits of being in a commercial gym. It's like, okay, this is what people are doing right now. These are the common problems people have.
I think that's
some of those problems haven't even fixed themselves yet.
as a diagnostician, it's helpful. I think we all need to stay abreast of worst practices, and that's where you'll see many of them play out. One of the interesting things that I experience is I go to this gym and they're nice. They let me bring stuff in. So I've got a duffel bag of Mike Gillette gear, and then after 15 minutes of draping all of my stuff on top of the power rack, you can start to draw a crowd. What's that? Why are you doing this? And, all of those questions culminate with the inevitable. So how much you bench? And then, of course, after they've just witnessed, this ant-looking dude, do weighted dips with, some kind of excessive weight, and I say, well, I don't bench, they're so disillusioned. Because for a moment they thought I was strong, but if I don't bench, obviously I'm a fraud. And they just kind of wander back off to their leg extensions.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you about. You're trying. That was one of the things I was going to say. No. Earlier you were talking about. Yeah, well, that too. We'll get to that in a second. But earlier you were talking about how a lot of people quit working out when they can't do certain moves, and I think that's one of the reasons why. Is because if they can't bench press anymore, they don't have an answer to that inevitable question that they get when someone looks at you and you look like you work out. So they're like, well, I guess I just better not work out at all, because no one's going to understand that me dipping 5 45-pound plates is actually more impressive, or at least as impressive as a big bench press. So I think that's where a lot of people get disappointed, is they work out for show too much. They work out so that when they're at some cocktail party, they can cleverly drop what their training, what the levels of greatness they think they've achieved with training are.
Yeah, or on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think that's true, and that was a little bit of my story for a time. It was like 2004, 2005. I was kind of going through what I thought might be sort of the last stages of me doing resistance training, because I had just gotten to a point where everything hurt. And, I was of a generation, pre-internet, where strength training was actually bodybuilding. No one knew that there was a difference. Before the internet, there was no real access to like good training information, physical culture information. Right. I grew up or came of age, on Weider publications and the 5 or 6 books that the mall bookstore sold, which were written by, Bob Kennedy, and published by Weider or Muscle Mag International. And all those books suck. And, they just basically, were products of a particular era, which was, bodybuilders and the high volume sort of pharmacologically, assisted routines that were, common within that community.
Well, I think they contain programs that no one ever did, right? You ever look at a lot of these
that didn't dawn on me
magazines?
Until much later. That didn't dawn on me until much later.
It was this ridiculous amount of training that no one could possibly do.
Yeah, I'm going to do chest for 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Then I'm going to go home, take a nap, come back, and finish with tries.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a quick routine. That's just 90 minutes.
But people still have those problems now, Mike. People still have those problems now where, I go to the gym, I hit 3 to 5 moves, period. That's an entire workout. I'm out of there. Sometimes less, depending on what the moves are. By the time I finished all of that, people are on their 3rd or 4th chest exercise.
Yeah.
Because that same bad information has just been passed down from one generation to the next, where people don't feel that. You do 3 hard sets on the dips. Why do you need to do anything else? Why do you even have the energy to do anything else?
Yeah.
In that category.
They come from that era where chest day means I'm going to do every chest exercise that's out there today.
Right.
And what's funny is I grew up amongst that. I was a small dude, and I figured the only reason I was small is because my gym didn't have enough chest equipment, or I didn't have enough, exercises that I was doing. So one of the reasons I was so tore up by the time I was in my early 40s is because I did everything wrong, with great enthusiasm, because I was a high energy mistake maker. So it wasn't until being confronted with that and not being willing to accept that, at age, we'll say, 42, 43, that I was done. That's what led me to rings back when, pre-CrossFit, nobody knew about rings. And I think it was Tyler Haas was the first guy to bring
that's right,
plastic, relatively low cost, rings to the marketplace. Right. I knew about rings years earlier because, the late Larry Scott, first Mr. Olympia, would use rings. And if you were on his mailing list, he would try to sell you rings. They were steel gymnastic rings, and they were stupid expensive. I never had the money for that, and I didn't quite understand what he was doing with them, but I was at least aware of them, and they were just, sort of an esoteric thing. And, most of us associated rings with gymnastics, and gymnasts weren't quite human anyway. So it was kind of easy to blow all of that off. But it dawned on me that rings might accommodate all of the joint issues that I had. I had joint problems in my 20s. Doing just pull-ups on a bar hurt my wrists. I'm a delicate guy, fellas. What can I tell you? So I spent the money on the rings. I got the rings. I was living in Vegas at the time, and I was so jazzed when these things showed up in the mail. I immediately took them to Gold's Gym. Now, a word of advice for anyone listening: if you haven't done anything on rings before, you may want to practice privately a few times before you make your debut at a gym that was overrun with professional bodybuilders. Because I'm sure for them,
how those ring push-ups work out for you, Mike?
Oh man, it took a little while to sort of get the groove. But the interesting thing was, the body figures things out fairly quickly. If you throw yourself into these situations, that's one skill I do have is enthusiasm. And it was an absolute life-changing thing for me, guys. The relief I felt immediately, from doing staple exercises, pull-ups, dips, ring push-ups, it was just like the muscles hurt, but not the joints. It was exactly how God intended, and I was one happy guy. And I've stuck very closely with the ring subsequent to that. I mean, I've found ways to make those exercises more challenging as I've gotten stronger.
Do you use a weight vest, Mike, to add resistance?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm all man at the end of the day. So, yeah, I got to strapping stuff on. And by man, I mean reckless. You know, I have to say, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. I'm not the only one, you know, but I'll just admit to it. So rings are, because of the movement potential, you know, they're very joint friendly, but because of the movement potential, they're so variable. So you can tweak angles for days and, you know, find ways to sort of incrementally ramp up the difficulty and the perceived resistance. They're just a great tool. And of course, you know, I've traveled with mine, you know, they just, you know, go right into a suitcase. I've found playgrounds on the road, you know, tree branches. You know, occasionally I'll have to shut the buckles into a hotel room door and just kind of use them like sort of a half-assed TRX. But they really, really work for me. And because I'm, you know, reasonably creative with respect to, you know, external resistance and so forth, I've been able to kind of have them grow with me, so to speak.
Yeah, I think people sleep on rings, man, and, you know, again, focusing on other equipment, thinking that's the way to go. But it's amazing that sometimes I can put my clients on rings for the first time, or even they've been on there quite a few times, but every time they go back, they still realize, like, wow, these still suck, you know, because it's just it's a testament to what I always say is, like, if you can't move your body weight, you don't deserve to pick up the other weights. And so,
right.
and
you gotta
they realize, like, wow, when the first time you sit there and you do some ring push-ups and then go right into some ring dips right behind that, you know, the game changes for you like that. And then there's all these big, strong guys that probably scoff and laugh at that, like, well, man, look, you know, I deadlift this and I bench press this. But, you know, those are the main guys, like, okay, I would love to see you do about 3 to 5 sets of 10 of these ring dips. You know, since, you know, you got these big giant, you know, triceps or whatever, dude, and these pythons that you say that you have. I would love to see you just see if you can make it through 5 rounds of this, you know, and, you know,
or even just,
especially
you know, holding themselves up above the rings. I mean,
exactly.
If you've used rings in a commercial gym, eventually the really big dudes are going to come over and see what's up. And I always say, hey, you know, try it out. It's really fun. And, you know, they try, they fall to the floor, and then they say, this is stupid, you know, and they go back and do more bench presses. But yeah.
And what's amazing, they sweat more from holding themselves up than actually just going through and lifting dumbbells, you know, or actually doing deadlifts. Just holding themselves in one spot, you know, they're sweating like a whore in church, you know. This is crazy, man.
There you go. And the other thing that I really like about it is, you know, I think all good training is core training, as much as I hate to use that word because it's such a cliche, but it's true. Rings are just, you know, like kettlebells, there's just certain tools that really seem to get the body, you know, doing what the body should be doing, which is talking to its, you know, getting all of those muscle areas to talk to each other, you know, and to work as a unit. And that has had, it has a lot of carryover for me with some of the bending things that I do. And I mean, I don't hold myself out there as like a real serious bender. I've got a lot of friends that are, you know, really, you know, world class at that. But my experience in bending is really more for training purposes. And I have found that through bending, I've really come to understand what it is to, you know, have maximum engagement, you know, from head to toe. And as much as I got some of that from rings, it was bending that really was sort of like, you know, the frosting on that particular cake. So, you know, by bending, I've actually gotten, you know, better and more in control with my ring work.
How did you start that, Mike? Did you start with nails?
I started entirely by accident. I signed up to do a research trip. Basically, I had contacted Dennis Rogers, who you know, is probably the most visible of the people who do feats of strength. And anybody who's bent stuff on Oprah, you know, that's a level of success and magnitude that the rest of us put together aren't going to touch. Yeah, so Dennis,
he's right here in my
very
backyard.
Well known, and I had known of him for a long time, and I was intrigued by Dennis because he's a smaller guy, he's older than me, and as the first human to bend a crescent wrench in half, there were just questions I had, and they were all sort of based around how do you do that and your body just not break apart? Because, I was a reasonably, I'm 46 at this point. This was in '08. And, I'm a strong-ish guy, but structurally, I know what it's like to experience joint pain just from routine training. What does it even mean to be able to bend a crescent wrench? I had no frame of reference for that. So I wanted to get together with Dennis and just talk training. How do you train to be Dennis Rogers? And because I've done a lot of private training with some famous martial artists, basically showing up at their house and learning what makes them tick, I contacted Dennis, with that premise in mind, and he said, well, I'm actually doing an event in a few months where some of my proteges will be here, and if you want to just talk to people who do this, there'll be a whole room full. And I said, oh, that sounds awesome. So August of '08, I flew to Houston, Texas. Didn't know Sincere was there. I would have looked you up. And spent several days just, nose to nose with these guys. And it's one thing to see somebody bend a horseshoe on YouTube. It's another, when it's 18 inches from your face. And I was so captivated by that, that I started to want that. Now, Dennis suggested some things for me to try during those days, and I tried a few things, and I sort of stumbled through them. I bent the horseshoe, it wasn't a big one. I bent a nail, wasn't a big one. Bent a steel bar, it wasn't a big one, but it was enough. I touched it a little bit, and meanwhile, I'm hanging out with these guys that are doing just insane feats. And it was so attractive to me. And a lot of that, I think, had to do with where I was at the time, sort of professionally. I had been in the bodyguard game a couple of years. I had grown kind of indifferent to that. It's one of those things that seems cool at the time, but then the reality of that work, just travel and the fatigue and not being in control of your own schedule and being away from family, I was ready for something to come along and to really grab me, and that was it. So it was from that point on that I started developing my own repertoire, which is not so rooted in pure strength exploits as much as those gentlemen do it, but more sort of, some people would just refer to as bad life choices. I do a lot of kind of body toughness feats. That's, I think, what I've become, best known for. And it's just a way, because as I've sort of transitioned professionally out of, the whole security part of my resume and just working with people, primarily, on the mental side of things, that it becomes important to me to do some of the things I do, not because I want to show off or not because I'm an entertainer, because I'm neither of those things, but it's validation of my methods. If I hold myself out as someone who can take you to a different place with respect to your mental capabilities, and I can't manifest that on my own, then it's not real. Then it's just theoretical. I mean, there are people who know things about things, but can they do it, or have they done it? And right. I feel as though it's not valid if I can't do it. And the mind is something I can continue to develop and cultivate despite, my relative maturity. If I was solely focused on being strong, that curve is going to start working in a direction that's not so favorable. I still think that there's more ground for me to gain strength-wise, but with respect to what I can take, withstand, endure, the sky's the limit. I'm still just scratching the surface of that. So for me, the feats are if I'm speaking publicly, they can make a very striking visual metaphor. They can punctuate a point very effectively. But more than that, if I'm encouraging people to dig deep, do scary things, really explore where their limits are, I have to do that too. And that's what the feats have become about for Mike Gillette.
What is the mental? How do you present the mental side of stuff? Is it a combination of you're doing these feats of strength? How does that whole work?
Oh, you mean like when I'm working with people?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, it's just the vocabulary of techniques that I've developed over many years of being me in a variety of professional contexts. So there were techniques I was introduced to in the military, police training, in the martial arts, and that ultimately led me to additional research, because when I started doing training exclusively, I left law enforcement in 2001 and started doing nothing but training from that point onward. Some of the training projects I was immediately involved with were huge. They were, sort of 9/11 related. So, for example, I was working with the airline industry quite a bit. It's one thing for me to teach flight attendants how to take out a terrorist, but if you can't contextually get to the place where you're okay doing that, where you could actually access those skills under the duress of a real situation, then those skills are, we don't know if you've actually got them, because we need you to get to the place where it's okay for you to do this. You got into this job because you're a customer service professional. Now I'm asking you to possibly kill somebody in your workplace. Your workplace happens to be an airplane. So I started looking really hard at some of the things that I'd been teaching, law enforcement, military personnel, and trying to adapt them to people who had to do very dangerous things or very high-level things, but weren't coming from that background to start with, which was a real challenge. And as I developed that and sort of expanded my reach training-wise through other, again, kind of 9/11 related training programs, I developed a lot of content that is still sort of in the training literature for security personnel in mass casualty settings or potential mass casualty settings, amusement parks, malls, sports arenas, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my work became about getting people okay with the idea of doing things that are scary. And as I developed those things, I realized that a lot of what I was creating was essentially an alternative means of peak performance training. We think about peak performance, and we typically think about sports performance. There's a lot of people who have been working with athletes. The discipline referred to as sports psychology has been referred to for decades. So it's kind of that, but it's kind of beyond that. And it's my own take on those types of exercises and exercises that I've just studied or been trained in by others that I've sort of adapted to, help people be the person they need to be in a particular circumstance. I refer to it as developing a situational personality. In different settings, we need to be different versions of ourselves.
How do you train someone, Mike, though, to be able to recall their training and apply it in such a high-stress situation where you may just go completely blank? You may not even know what your name is under such a high-stress situation.
Well,
so how do you make that familiar?
Yeah. Well, it's basically being able. The easiest way is to control the training space. So if your activity, whether it's whether you're a SWAT officer or you're a gymnast, there is a definite environment where that's going to play out. So if we don't take that environment into account, we don't mimic aspects of it, we won't be successful. So there are environments that you can't really mimic in terms of, duplicating it. So you break down what those environments consist of in terms of, stimulus or cognitive demand, the distractions, the rapid decision making that would be required of you to function effectively in that setting. So if you can distill settings or environments down in that context, if that makes sense, if you can create, not by making it look exactly like, because where's the SWAT team going to operate? Who knows? Many different physical environments, but the processes that they'll have to engage with mentally in order to prevail are going to be common. So they have to be able to handle, confusing stimulus, diminished perception because of light, sound, those types of things, and be able to, access their training, as we say, under those circumstances. So we can do some of that it may not actually look like what the street is, but it carries along with it all of the complexities or the variables that make it more difficult, if that makes sense. And that's another thing that you can do with athletes. It's fairly simple. So there's the externally imposed variables that you have to allow the athlete or the client to problem solve. And then there's virtual practice. And virtual practice is not me talking about using technology. It's teaching athletes how to create their optimal performance space, how to mentally rehearse effectively, how to get better at doing that, because the same neural pathways, that are accessed through physical practice, if you really have a good, detailed, sophisticated process for simulating that same thing mentally, you're still engaging the brain in the same way. And of course, your brain is always open. It's free. There's no cost for training time. There's no sitting around waiting in line for equipment. You always have access to that. So it's a combination, ideally, of doing things with the group or with the individual that sort of force them to prevail in circumstances where they have to contend with variables beyond their control, and then also to teach them how to control themselves, mentally, whilst dealing with those variables. So it's kind of two halves that are combined. And if we're talking about people that function in a group setting, I do a lot of team workshops across a variety of sports that are more designed to create a common language for that type of training, so that everybody understands what everyone is trying to accomplish in the context of, on the field, on the court, as well as, individually in their own minds. And for the coach then to be able to, I may just come in for one or two workshops, and then it's up to the coach to sort of perpetuate that mental work. So there's a lot of different layers to it, and it all just kind of varies with sport. Different sports have their own complexities, culture issues, and of course available resources. Have a lot to do with just how deep you get with some of that stuff.
So essentially, what you're teaching them is, and with those circumstances that are pretty much, external, out of their control, basically they need to be coached to be two people at one time. Basically, you're that person that's in that moment where something's happening right now. But at the same time, you can step outside of yourself and kind of coach yourself through it and become this other person who's kind of on the outside looking in like, hey, you've been here mentally, visually, we've been here before. So I think that kind of helps people to not panic in those situations where they just freeze. And so many people don't like, a lot of people don't want to go there.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't want to go there because a lot of times they don't want to look at situations like that. They don't like to look at closed circuit TV situations where there's violence happening or something like that because, oh my God, that's just gory or whatever else. But then when something like that happens in real life, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. They're surprised. Whereas, if you kind of already go there mentally, just visually and see it actually happening and seeing all the dynamics of what made that situation happen and how people responded to it, yeah, you weren't exactly there, but you kind of have an idea of what you can do.
Right. No, I think that's a really good observation. The idea is always to create at least the perception that you've been here before, okay? Mm-hmm. And when you were here, we worked through it, which means you can work through it for real. And what's kind of sort of trail on what you were saying, the scary factor, the fear factor exists for everybody. It just sort of plays out differently. Now, if we're working with what I would just consider like regular people, people that don't have, like an extraordinary job, but may, for whatever reason, have to contend with something extraordinary, they're typically afraid of the obvious thing, the violence, the dark, the thing that goes bump in the night. The warrior class, the action guys, there's a fear also, but that fear is making a mistake, looking bad, not being a superstar all the time, because, frequently these guys are superstars all the time, and putting them in situations where they have to problem solve, is they have to get past sort of the ego-based fear of those situations, and, I will frequently tell people, I'm not interested in how good you are on your best day. I want to know how good you can be on your worst day, because that's probably a better reflection of how things are actually going to go. If you can have everything sort of going against you and you still work through and solve the problem, then great. If we know we can nail this on a bad day, then those good days are going to be cake.
Right.
So being able to introduce the things that can lead to mistakes, in the safe confines of a training environment, those are to be sought out. Those are to be cultivated.
Right. And I think a lot of times people really want to be in those situations where they feel like, okay, I'm good at this. I want to stay in this situation. I think a lot of times that can really get them in trouble. And whether it's just training in the gym or, training at the firing range or something like that, or even just doing war games and getting ready to be deployed, or something like they want to go with what's familiar and like, okay, I know I'm good at this. Let's do more of that instead of like,
we all want to be a superstar.
Oh yeah,
that's just
instead of going like I want to do what I suck at and I want to get better at that. No one wants to admit that they suck at anything.
Right. Yeah. Just even saying it out loud feels wrong.
Yeah.
For a lot of people like that, it's like, nope, not me. I'm amazing.
Yeah, and it's always amazing. Like even when you're teaching a course and you go around, you ask, if you've gone over something, you ask everyone like, all right, does anyone have any questions? And no one raises their hand or says anything. And it's amazing. Like, come on, I know someone's thinking something. There's just no way that you got all of that, especially because this is pretty much something new to you. And no one wants to seem like they don't know, or they want to feel like they're going to ask something stupid, until they try to perform it and then they look stupid. It's like, well, that could have been avoided if you just asked the question.
Really. Very true. And there's an interesting flip side to that phenomenon. And I find it, primarily on the mental side. Mm-hmm. And that is, if I come in and I'm discussing, mental training concepts, someone is eventually going to share with me, whether, during or after, I know about that stuff. I went to a seminar. I read a book. I read an article online. And I'll say, okay, cool. So you're familiar with these concepts. Yep, I am. That's great. So how are you incorporating them?
Right.
Crickets.
Right.
And this is such a weird realm of training. Mental training, because you assimilate it. I convey it to you intellectually. So you hear it, you sort of process it as you're hearing it, you understand it. Okay, got it. But even though it's conveyed that way or it's communicated that way, it still requires the same application that deadlifts do. If you're not doing it, you don't have it, and that's a phrase I find myself returning to frequently, which, you can say the solution, but if you're not implementing the solution, you don't actually know the solution. You know of it.
Know of it, yeah.
Exactly. It's like you can know of deadlifts, but if you're not deadlifting, then you're not a guy who or girl who does deadlifts.
Right.
So, when you're talking to people who actually do deadlifts, you have to shut up because you're not actually doing it. It's great that you understand, certain, theoretical frameworks for training, but if you're not doing them, you don't know.
That's that osmosis living. Just like, I'm just absorbing, I'm good. I'm just taking all the data in, I'm good. I'm a supercomputer. I can do it whenever.
I own a cookbook, so.
Well, it's like people who watch the UFC. It's like people kicking back watching the UFC that are going, why is he doing that? He needs to do the arm bar. He should have done a takedown here. They've never trained. Forget about being in an actual fight. They've never even trained.
Okay, tap out shirt. Yeah,
let me just repeat all the phrases that I hear a lot. Let's see. Rear naked choke. He should do that. Darce choke. Why didn't he do that? Like, dude, can you do that?
Like bro, you
pretty much every fighter
choke.
Every professional fighter I've ever met always has a story of them hanging out somewhere. They're at Starbucks and some jack off comes in and goes, hey man, I watched your last fight and I think you made a mistake in round 3. It'll be some guy whose gut is so big that he hasn't seen his feet in 10 years and he's never been in any kind of combative situation, period. Yet he somehow has the gall to walk up to a professional fighter and give them advice. And anyone who's I don't think people realize
your game plan.
No, I mean, if you've even held pads for a professional fighter, you realize real quick the difference between a professional fighter and someone who might be a good street fighter or just he's good.
Or,
he's good
or
with his
instructor
friends
in Taibo class
for a couple of years in the backyard.
There's it's an interesting phenomenon. I think MMA has a disproportionate amount of overly knowledgeable fans.
That's right.
Just like everybody knows what the football coach should have done.
Right.
I come from a profession that's also a spectator sport, law enforcement. And thanks to dash cams and chest video and all that, everybody know what they should have done, or they shouldn't have done this because X, Y, Z. Really. And and we're off to the races. Yeah, but I think we're such a sort of a bystander culture now, thanks to YouTube. It's like we have access to everything, so the way that we access it is just sort of superficially, just little clips of this and that, and we still think we got it.
Well, the issue is people still think that seeing is believing. It's like, okay, instead of asking the questions like, well, what do we know for sure? And, that's what I was telling you, especially when you start talking about, like, even these dash cam situations or whatever, people always ask me, well, Sincere, what do you think? I'm like, well, what do we know for sure? Well, didn't you see what happened? I'm like, I saw 15 seconds of some real crappy video from somebody's crappy cell phone, and I don't know what happened before that happened.
The situation may have been playing out for 15 minutes.
Where's the audio? I'm like, I didn't hear anything. I'm just watching something. I'm watching a silent movie for 15 seconds, so it's not telling me much. So it's not telling you much, so we can't draw conclusions.
Not all that different from the MMA situation too, because when that fighter is actually in there, and they are diminished ability to perceive stimuli, fatigue, one eye swelling shut, the crowd is loud, I can't hear my corn, all of those things. It's always.
And minus you got about 5 million people looking, watching you at the same time. Whether so that
because the cameras are everywhere.
So, you have you're pressured to perform. It's like, gosh, man, the whole world's watching me right now.
That's a
people can't stand it. 5 people watching
to solve. For sure.
Exactly. Yeah, people don't even want to go to the gym because I don't like working at the gym because people are looking at me. So if you think you have an issue with that, who are you to question the fighter that has 7 million people watching him live?
I'm really impressed with. I'm really impressed with any professional fighter who has the ability to keep his or her nerves in check, just walking out to the ring. Because I've been to fights live before, and I'm nervous for the fighter as I see them walking out. I'm in the audience watching, and my heart rate's going up, thinking about what they have to do. I can't even imagine how they feel.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was actually in your fair city about a week and a half ago. I was going through some new training just because I think it's interesting. I was actually going through a cornerman or cutman training with a guy who was a cutman in the UFC for a number of years, who was mentored by Stitch Duran. And basically, it's a very specific venue style of first aid. And one of the things that he was sharing with me because he's worked a lot of pay-per-views and the Ultimate Fighter TV series and so forth. He said the vibe in the locker room, for reasons that you just described. I mean, the level of things that you could focus on to create anxiety. I mean, take your pick. Forget the fight. What's your record right now? Is this your last chance to fight in the UFC based on how this goes? Yeah. Are you in line to lose an endorsement? Are you behind on house payment? I mean, then the cameras, then all of that. So it's a level of, to be successful in the context of that setting, takes tremendous focus. And,
no doubt.
And I think we've all seen examples where that focus has been maintained and the success that corresponds with that, as well as people who weren't able to master just the mental side of all of that and how that typically will go. Yeah,
no doubt.
It's fascinating. I think that, any sport, if you sort of get beyond the trappings of the specific sport, whether we're watching tennis or MMA or even chess, for me as a spectator, that's what I hone in on. That's what I'm most interested in. Who is really got themselves under control, and how is that contributing to how things are playing out.
I mean, even someone like the presidential debates were on last night, even the stress of that, the candidates before they have to come out on stage and debate with each other and millions of people watching at home.
Yeah, that's
a situation where it's just like getting
one to go sideways on, tangentially speaking, but tremendous, because if you've got two fighters essentially coming in evenly matched, they're both going for the top, the belt is vacant right now. And they are coming in, the Vegas odds have them at a statistical dead heat. That's crazy pressure. And,
all your family and friends
on who you're a fan of, either your candidate did really well or did not.
Right.
And which is another interesting variable. Everybody's candidate won.
I saw
I don't know how that happened.
I was like, really? I'm like, were people watching the same debate? I'm just like, honestly, no one won.
Watching the debate and their candidate won.
Well, look, it's really like this. I mean, are these debates really going to make a difference in terms of who someone's going to pick at this point? I mean, I think it's safe to say that every voter knows who they're going to pick at this point.
No one got swayed last night by that debate. If anything,
I think that's accurate. But it's so.
I mean, we could vote today, and it's going to be the same outcome as November.
If anything, it just validated whoever they chose. More like, that's the reason why I'm going with this person.
Yeah, I think what we got from that debate was exactly that.
Comedy. I got comedy.
They both reinforced their own persona. They both reinforced what you like about them or don't like about them.
Right.
They were both very much the version of themselves that we most typically associate with them.
And just like you were saying, Mike, about you comparing them to fighters, you can honestly see when they first came out, they had a plan. But, but as soon as someone got hit in the face, with one comment or a fact, that plan just fell. And all of a sudden you saw them go back to being who they were, So just like a fighter, it's like you have a plan, you do in your camp, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And then you don't expect, and the other fighter does one thing that you didn't expect, and then it just comes unraveled, and you go back to doing what you're familiar with and what you're comfortable with. That's what happens.
We default to training. As the great philosopher Mike Tyson once said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we can take it to a much lower. We can take it to a much less significant context of a trainee going to the gym.
When you said lower, I thought you were like, lower brow. It's like, do we really want to do that? I mean, like, we've had this. Really
we could do that too.
What's your example, Mike?
No, but I mean, just the context of someone going to a gym for a workout. They have a plan, as you should. It's a waste of time just to go to the gym and show up and see what you're going to do. But you have a plan of what you're going to do. And let's say it doesn't go as well as you hoped. Someone who's a professional trainee, if you will, someone who's been doing it for a long time, they kind of understand the ebbs and flows of training. Someone who's more of an amateurish mindset is going to be that person that throws a fit. The bar doesn't come off as easily as they thought they would on the deadlift. They're, God damn it! They're stomping around. And they keep on trying, and it keeps getting worse each time. It's like, look, man, it's not happening today. It's okay.
Yeah.
You'll live to see another day, man. Just relax. Unless you break your back as you keep trying to do this.
Yeah, very true. It's interesting how I think the newer you are at all of that, the more likely you are to sort of be really emotionally rooted in how it's going.
Right.
Whereas, those of us that have, been in the trenches a while, it's just kind of like, well, okay, that's not working today. Or
Steve Justin
it's working better than I thought, and
right.
it's when it's good, it's good. And when it isn't good, it's still good because you're there, and
you're always learning something either way.
Exactly. Hopefully, you're learning something from it.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully.
If you're smart.
That's very true. Yeah. That's the ideal that I think we're all probably going for, or that, we want for the people that we work with, is the,
I think what it comes down to is
process.
I think what it comes down to is to not be married to a result or an idea, but to just court it.
Yeah.
Just date it.
Yeah.
Just realize that you might have to break up. They may say something stupid. Something might go wrong where you're like, you know what? F this. I'm out of here. Let me move on to something else. But people get married to an idea like, well, it's not working, but I'm just going to go with it. Because I don't want to deal with the shame of letting it go and thinking I'm a quitter.
Right. Well, and that's when you haven't had somebody mentor you in all of this, it's very easy to become married to the plan, the schematic, and because you don't have the basis for understanding the role of the plan or the role of the program, and the ongoing process that it is, and that it's just there to facilitate, forward steps. And so I think when your workout plan is perceived to basically be an ongoing report card, that's a recipe for frustration.
Right.
Because you don't really understand and no one has told you not to get so wrapped around, if you can't quite get through this or the percentages have to be adjusted, because of how things actually are in the reality that is your body today. That's okay. That's the reality of training in the real world. And the idea, because we see all this marketing, we buy this plan, and it's supposed to work this way. Well, I'm on this 90-day plan. Well,
these guaranteed results in 90 days.
Yeah. Well, let's
adjust
it to 91 days and call today good.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hate when I hear 90-day goals or 90-day plans, because just to cultivate a new habit takes 90 days. People will say, to cultivate a new habit, it takes 7 to 10 days, which is laughable. I mean, it takes 90 days to create a new habit.
Yeah.
And it takes probably a week to break that habit. That's how quickly it can go. So 90 days, you're just getting started. So the fact that people think they're going to make these magical physique transformations, or they're going to develop elite levels of strength in 90 days, I mean, who are you kidding?
Yeah. And, it's interesting you mentioned that. When I was much younger, I would periodically, come across, as the literature started to change and as, the internet started to become more prevalent, and I was able to get access to actual training information as opposed to, regurgitated bodybuilding articles. And I would see this point start to crop up more and more frequently, which was that it takes a long time to get strong. To get really strong. The guys who are really, really strong have been at it for a long time. And that to me didn't initially make sense, simply because, aren't you stronger when you're younger? I didn't understand, the idea that repetition, improves neurological efficiency and on we go, and just, honing technique, and how a power lifter can have 10 years in the game and he's still going to a Louis Simmons weekend seminar to hone, one of the lifts that he's been doing for over 10 years. I just didn't have a frame of reference for that. So I think a lot of people don't get that, this is like playing the violin. It just looks different, but it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Mark Philippi once told me that he didn't reach his peak level of strength until he was in his 40s. And this is a guy who was probably started working out seriously when he was a teenager, playing high school football. But even as a strongman competitor, it wasn't until, I think he said, mid-40s that was at his peak of his abilities.
That's awesome. Yeah, what a great resource he is to the community. But that's a really good example of that.
Yeah. Incredible. So, I mean, so someone who's 25 complaining that they're not as strong as they would like to be. They've been working out for 2 years and they haven't hit all their goals yet.
Yeah, it's like easy.
But also what I like about what Mark said is, what I also like about what Mark said is a lot of guys often use being 40 as an excuse. It's like, well, I'm 40 now, so I'm not as strong as I used to be, or I can't do what I used to be able to do. So you probably weren't able to ever. But those people were never impressive, though. The part they leave out is that they were never impressive. They weren't impressive at 25. They weren't impressive at 30. Right. They've never been impressive. It's not because they're 40 that they're not impressive. They've never been impressive.
Yeah. Well, imagine me. I'm 1 year away from the senior menu at IHOP. The people who I grew up with, the vast majority of them have not seen the inside of a gym in a really long time. And it's always the same rationale. Well, at our age, it's your age.
I hate that.
Our ages are apparently different.
Just because we have matching numbers doesn't mean we have the same age, buddy. That's the difference.
There we go. I may be stealing that.
I don't like when people even say, "Oh, I'm strong for my age." I go, No. You're either strong or you're not. I don't care about your age. You're either strong or you're not. If the average person at your age is 50 pounds overweight and can't touch their toes, it doesn't take much to be strong at that age. But that's the wrong reference point, frame of reference.
Yeah. That's a bad curve. It's
you're setting the bar really low there.
Right. Yeah. And
you can get out of bed and walk. The fact that you can walk out the front door and go to the mailbox and get your mail, and that puts you ahead of most people in your age bracket. That's not because you're doing anything impressive.
Yeah. It's just because you've adopted a set of standards that sucks.
Right. No, but I think people get really impatient with a lot of stuff too. Just going back to these 90-day programs, we always see people on a fat loss program where they lose 10 pounds in the first week or two, and then it becomes 5 pounds, and then it becomes to what they feel is a screeching halt. It really isn't. You lose a pound or two and so forth.
If you lose what happened?
If you lose 100 pounds in 2 years, you're more likely to keep that 100 pounds off than if you lost it in, let's say, 3, 5, 6 months doing some drastically unhealthy nutrition health program. Can't even call it a nutrition program.
Look at the stories that are coming out of the like the fat loss television show. Where it happens really fast, and how many people have rebounded right back to where they were.
Oh yeah.
And that even gets back to the whole issue.
Well, the faster you achieve anything. Yeah, the faster you achieve anything, the faster you lose it. So if you get really strong, let's say you put 50 pounds on your...
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect example. But just you put 50 pounds on your squat in a couple of weeks. Let's just say that's rare, but let's just say theoretically it happens. Your ability to hold on to that is going to be very difficult.
Right. Man, what a fascinating assemblage of topics we've not only just talked about, but basically solved for everyone today. It's amazing.
Hey, that's what we do. We solve problems on the show.
That's awesome.
Well, hey man, great having you on. And what do you have coming up? Anything you want to plug? Do you have any courses coming up or new products?
Well, what I've got that most people seem to be responding to is I've got a book. It's fairly inexpensive. It's on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. It's called Mind Boss, and it's basically, you've got a book that's basically, how to be awesome and quit whining. I know that's not the title.
But that's a good title, though.
Yeah. Maybe we can do that one together. But it's sort of self-help through the prism of kickassery. That's your book, and mine is kind of my own version of that. I think that, the essentials of self-improvement are largely universal truths. And, we sort of gravitate to the delivery system that sort of, is most relatable to us or is most interesting to us. And Mind Boss is, it's a pretty quick trip, from wherever a person is now to, being awesome, getting stuff done, and being accountable for all of it. And for my friends who don't necessarily like to read, I've got a video-based version of that. It's called Psychology Strength. If you go to strengthpsychology.com, strengthpsychology.com is the site. And that's either a direct digital download version, or there's a physical DVD product option as well. We did talk about ring training earlier in our conversation. I actually have the only, I think, purely strength-focused book on that topic called Rings of Power, and you can find that at dragondoor.com or Amazon. And, rings are cheap, versatile, and you can get real awesome real fast with those. So those would be some places I direct folks. Also, MikeGillette.com is just a great place to get a lot of free content, encouragement. I basically will harass you to the point that you become awesome, even if you're not sure you want to do that on your own. It will be inevitable. It's also a great place to find my various social media channels. So MikeGillette.com is where all that happens.
Fantastic, man. Great having you back on. I'm sure we'll have you back again soon.
Good to be with you guys. You're awesome. I love the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Mike. You take care. You have a good day. That's your cue to get off if you haven't gotten off yet.
Okay.
I'm just messing with you.
Here I go now.
Sometimes people don't know what to do, so I'm just giving you a little heads up.
Are the guys still there? Should I say something? How did that go?
No, we're still recording, buddy. Just stick around, Mike. We'll wrap up. Yes, anyway, folks, use that coupon code LLA. Go get 10% off everything at MikeMahler.com. All of my supplements are fully in stock, so load up while you can. And also don't forget to become a Patreon subscriber so that you can have access to our premium episodes.
Yep, like the one that's coming up next week. So there you go. And also head over to newwarriortrain.com. Use that same coupon code. Get 10% off everything over there. And, like the man said, go to patreon.com/LLA podcast. Become a Patreon subscriber. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We'll catch all our premium subscribers next week. Everyone else, see you in about 2 weeks. So don't be everyone else. All right, folks, take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye.